हाँ, ओके. Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, MD General Physician. Today we'll be talking on one of the another interesting topic of cardiovascular system, cardiomyopathy. You will come across in your everyday practice very frequently, as well as there are some cardiomyopathy which are reversible, which you pick up early and treat them early, they are totally reversible. So we'll be talking on entire full aspects of cardiomyopathy. Meaning is very simple. Cardiomyopathy means involvement of myocardium. So it is a primary disorder of heart muscle, that is myocardium, where you get abnormal myocardial performance, but it is not the result of the disease or dysfunction of other cardiac structures like ischemic heart disease, valvular heart disease, hypertension, etc. So it excludes this condition which also involves the myocardium. That is described as cardiomyopathy. So it includes heterogeneous group of myocardial disease where you get mechanical and electrical dysfunction. You can have a ventricular hypertrophic variety or a dilated variety, and good number of times there is a genetic etiology. And this disease, that is ischemic heart disease, hypertension and valvular heart disease, are excluded. So those are not included in cardiomyopathy. Now there are some terminology which are very commonly utilized in cardiomyopathy. We can call functional classification, or depending upon the etiology also we classify them. Among functional classification, dilated, hypertrophic and restrictive. These were the three common terms which were being utilized. There is another variety we call as arrhythmogenic right ventricular dysplasia or dysrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy. All are same. And there is one more we call as a stress cardiomyopathy. So dilated cardiomyopathy, or also called as congestive cardiomyopathy or idiopathic dilated cardiomyopathy. There is an hypertrophic variety also called as idiopathic hypertrophic subaortic stenosis, short form IHSS. Dilated is short form called DCM, D for dilated, C for cardio and M for myopathy, while hypertrophic is called HCM, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or also was described as hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy or asymmetrical septal hypertrophy. All these are different terms which are being utilized for hypertrophic variety. Restrictive variety is also called as infiltrative variety. Then comes arrhythmogenic, which involves the right ventricle, and that is replacement by fibroadipose tissue. Stress cardiomyopathy, there are many terms. We'll be talking separately on stress cardiomyopathy. It is also called Takotsubo or left ventricular outlet tract obstruction, or also called as a catecholaminergic cardiomyopathy. Etiology wise, we can divide into primary and secondary. We'll be going in detail in etiology part. Also, there is one variety which is being called reversible, means With treatment, the myocardium recovers completely, like Takotsubo, alcoholic, and there is one more variety we call as a tachyarrhythmics cardiomyopathy. Because of persistent of constant tachycardia can also lead to myocardial damage, we call it a reversible variety. WHO classify according to anatomy and physiology of LV, that is dilated variety, hypertrophic variety, restrictive variety, arrhythmogenic RV dysplasia, and unclassified variety. These are the three. And in unclassified variety, there are two: LV non-compaction and fibroelastosis. By and large, these are the four groups which are being well recognized, and this is one group where now newer variety are being included, that is LV non-compaction and fibroelastosis. So you've got a dilated variety, hypertrophic variety, arrhythmogenic variety, and restrictive variety. So these are the four common variety which you come across, and this was classified by WHO in 1995. And then they included left ventricular non-compaction. So these are the four groups, main plus unclassified variety. They can be familial, genetic, or we call idiopathic, and we call non-familiar or non-genetic, or we call as secondary. So this was the way it was being divided. You can have etiological classification, anatomical classification, histological classification, genetic, depending on biochemistry, depending on immunology, hemodynamics, functional, prognostic wise, treatment wise, etc. Takotsubo was described as traumatic cardiomyopathy, also labeled as stress-induced transient apical ballooning, broken heart, transient catecholaminergic myocardial stenting, or transient neurogenic, etc. These were all the different words which are being utilized. The most common word is Takotsubo, stress-induced broken heart syndrome, etc. Or they even call catecholaminergic cardiomyopathy. Arrhythmogenic cardiomyopathy is also called as ARVC, or you call as ARVD, arrhythmogenic right ventricular dysplasia or disorders, and DRVC is dysrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy, whatever way you want to use. Etiology, this slide I already discussed, so I am skipping over this slide. So etiology we divide into primary and secondary. Primary is also called as an intrinsic or primary, where it can be genetic. Genetic variety can be hypertrophic variety, arrhythmogenic variety, also as isolated ventricular non-compaction, that is LV. In a mixed variety where you have got a genetic with other elements, we call it a dilated cardiomyopathy and restrictive cardiomyopathy. And among acquired, we can call as acquired cardiomyopathy or Loeffler's endocarditis. Secondary means extrinsic cardiomyopathy, which is external causes producing a damage to the myocardium, like metabolic disorders, amyloidosis, hemochromatosis, inflammatory like Chagas, endocrine like diabetic, hyperthyroid, acromegaly, toxic damage by chemotherapy or by alcohol. In neuromuscular disorders, particularly Duchenne cardiomyopathy, which will be associated with muscular dystrophy, nutritional disorders like obesity, and miscellaneous. So primary, you can have genetic etiology, mixed variety, and acquired variety. Primary is mainly involving the heart, and in genetic variety you can come across hypertrophic, ARVD, left ventricular non-compliance, glycogen storage, conduction defects, mitochondrial variety, etc., or ion chain disorders, which will include long QT, short QT, Brugada. There is one more word utilized, Asian shunts and CVPT. As far as mixed variety is concerned, two, dilated cardiomyopathy and restrictive cardiomyopathy. Among acquired stress-induced Takotsubo, peripartum, tachycardia, or we call catecholaminergic cardiomyopathy or tachycardia-induced cardiomyopathy, and insulin-dependent diabetes mother, that infants of these groups may develop a cardiomyopathy that will be an acquired variety. Ion chain cardiomyopathy are Brugada, long QT, short QT. SUNS is sudden unexpected nocturnal death syndrome and idiopathic ventricular fibrillation. These are some of the variety which can be included in ion chain or ionic chain cardiomyopathy. There are some of the terms which are very commonly utilized: ischemic, valvular, hypertensive, inflammatory, metabolic, systemic, muscular dystrophy, neuromuscular disorders, toxic, peripartal, etc. These are all the different terms which are being utilized depending upon the etiology or pathophysiology. If you look at this chart, the most common variety is the idiopathic variety, which is almost accounting for 50% of the people. Then comes ischemic heart disease, infiltrative disease, peripartum, hypertension, HIV, connective tissue, substance abuse, toxic drugs, and miscellaneous. So, idiopathic variety and ischemic disorders comes topmost on the list. So, in primary, we don't know the exact etiology, but in secondary, it can be ischemic, alcoholic, peripartum, post-infection, viral, toxic material, etc. And it can end up into dilated variety or what we call as restrictive variety. So in a dilated variety, we have got two etiology, one primary and secondary. The most common cause of dilated cardiomyopathy is ischemic, alcoholic, peripartum. This comes topmost on the list, viral, etc. So ischemic, valvular, hypertensive, familial, idiopathic and inflammatory are some of the mechanisms which can end up with a dilated variety. Among infections, viral, even rickettsial, parasitic like Chagas can come with dilated variety. In non-infectious, peripartum and collagen or we call autoimmune disorders like SLE, RA. Among toxic, alcohol, cocaine. In metabolic, hypothyroidism, pheochromocytoma, diabetes, acromegaly. In nutritional, thiamine deficiency. In neuromuscular disorder, Duchenne myopathy, etc. Non-genetic variety, myocarditis, peripartum, toxic, particularly alcohol or maybe idiopathic. And it will result into hypertrophy, dilatation, fibrosis, and may also give rise to thrombus formation. And secondary to dilated variety, you can get congestive heart failure, sudden cardiac death, atrial flutter fibrillation, even stroke. And genetic etiology is there in 25 to 50% of the people will have genetic etiology. That's why it is called mixed group, mixed variety. This is different conditions which can give rise to what we call as a dilated variety. Hypertrophic variety, the etiology is not known. Probably genetic, it is autosomal dominant. Some of the chromosomes are found to be responsible. And these are all the terms which we already discussed. hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy. This is hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. This is called idiopathic hypertrophic subaortic stenosis. You can see there is an abnormal septal hypertrophy leading to involvement of left ventricular outlet, particularly aortic, and that produces subaortic stenosis. Also, there may be involvement of what we call as mitral valve, etc. You can have a different groups in that: asymmetrical septal hypertrophy, discrete variety, apical variety, symmetrical hypertrophy, and involvement of papillary muscle. These are all the different groups which we will be talking. So we have got a variant in this hypertrophic variety. The most common variety is asymmetrical septal hypertrophy, which is accounting for 65 to 70%. Second most common group is apical variety, where you get this apical part undergoing hypertrophy. You don't have involvement of the aortic outlet. Here you will have an involvement of aortic outlet leading to subvalvular aortic stenosis. 8 to 10% is symmetrical hypertrophy, and very odd variety where we call asymmetrical septal hypertrophy. So asymmetrical septal hypertrophy, these two are that particular variety, and this will be associated along with systolic anterior motion, we call it as SAM, and secondary to SAM you get mitral regurgitation. So etiology as far as a hypertrophic variety will be all these condition can give rise to, this will be restrictive groups. This will be restrictive group, which can be because of myocardial involvement or because of endomyocardial involvement, that is endocardium with myocardium. Myocardial involvement can be idiopathic, familial, scleroderma, diabetic, infiltrative variety like amyloidosis, sarcoidosis, Gaucher's disease, fatty infiltration, Fabry, etc. So these are some of the mainly we good number of time call infiltrative disease or infiltrative cardiomyopathy, and that involves the myocardium because there is idiopathic or we call genetic, plus there is infiltrative which are acquired. That's why this is put into mixed group. In endomyocardial involvement, endomyocardial fibrosis like radiation, drugs like anthracyclines, hypereosinophilic syndrome, metastatic cancer, carcinoid, then fibrous endocarditis, maybe because of serotonin or methysergide, ergots, etc. There are reversible conditions which we call as a peripartum variety, tachycardia mediated cardiomyopathy, Takotsubo, alcoholic, this comes topmost on the list. Cocaine, drugs, ischemic, SLE, sarcoidosis, nutritional deficiency, electrolyte, obstructive sleep apnea are rare, not very common. So they are also called as arrhythmogenic induced cardiomyopathy or tachycardia mediated cardiomyopathy. Takotsubo is one of the variety of reversible cardiomyopathy. As far as in short pathophysiology is concerned, in a dilated variety, because secondary to ventricular dilatation, it is hypokinetic. Mainly left ventricle is more commonly involved as compared to right ventricle, which will give rise to systolic dysfunction and can end up with congestive heart failure. While hypertrophic variety, because of inappropriate myocardial hypertrophy, particularly septum, it will be associated with obstruction to the left ventricle like aortic stenosis or subvalvular aortic stenosis, and there may be associated involvement of a mitral valve we call as a SAM, and that will give rise to what we call as mitral regurgitation. In restrictive variety, there is an infiltration of the myocardium leading to abnormal contraction of a myocardium, So abnormal ventricular filling with diastolic dysfunction. In arrhythmogenic variety, because there is involvement of the right ventricle, it can give rise to sudden cardiac arrhythmia, and arrhythmia are mainly ventricular variety. We call ventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation, and that can end up with sudden cardiac death. Stress cardiomyopathy, because of sudden stress, there is a release of catecholamine, which can produce stunting of the myocardium, also called as a Takotsubo, or left ventricular outlet tract obstruction, which is reversible but may be lethal because it produces cardiac arrhythmias. And in ECG, you can see even ST segment elevation and T wave changes. This is little in detail pathophysiology of dilated cardiomyopathy because of genetic factor, DNA mutation, altered gene. Because of that, there is an altered myocardial function. Because of altered immune system, there is an altered myocardial function. Secondary to viral infection, myocarditis, and that will also lead to altered myocardial function, which will lead to dilated variety. And because of dilatation of myocardium, the contraction of the myocardium becomes poor, will result into heart failure, thromboembolic phenomena. You will have cardiac arrhythmias, particularly ventricular cardiac arrhythmia, and person can have sudden cardiac death. This is very, very common in dilated variety. So ventricular chamber size will increase, poor contraction, heart failure, arrhythmias, regurgitations, particularly MRTR, quite common, thrombus formation, thromboembolism. So myocardial injury, decreased contraction, decreased stroke volume will result into decreased ventricular pressure. That will give rise to pulmonary congestion, left ventricular failure, and then even right ventricular failure. Left ventricular failure will end up into dyspnea, orthopnea, basal crackles, while right ventricular failure will give rise to edema, ascites, and JVP elevated. Because of LV dilatation, mitral regurgitation, that can end up into acute left ventricular failure or also into congestive heart failure. Because of decreased cardiac output, person can also present as fatigue, weakness, leg cramps, etc. Again, this is how exactly it happens in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Because of impaired relaxation, myocardial ischemia. Because of myocardial ischemia, systolic dysfunction. And also it can end up into syncope and cardiac arrest. Because of impaired relaxation, even diastolic dysfunction can happen, which can result into atrial arrhythmia, ventricular arrhythmia. And this particular can end up into syncope and cardiac arrest. You can have neurocardiogenic mechanism. Malignant condition can also end up into syncope and cardiac arrest. Heart blocks can also produce syncope and cardiac arrest. Secondary to hypertrophic process, there will be myocardial ischemia, there will be systolic dysfunction, diastolic dysfunction, cardiac arrhythmias, and also it can decrease the cardiac output producing syncope and cardiac arrest. And obstruction itself can result into impaired relaxation, myocardial ischemia, and can produce atrial arrhythmia and ventricular arrhythmias. So it is a very complicated mechanism in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, quite common. In short, we call it a HOCM. So because of abnormal hypertrophy, it can give rise to ventricular arrhythmias, which can produce syncope and sudden cardiac death. Because of LVH, impaired relaxation, diastolic dysfunction, dyspnea, increased demand of oxygen, angina, because of obstruction to the left ventricular outflow, increase in systolic pressure, that will also increase the myocardial demand and that will end up into angina. Because of involvement of mitral valve along with that, it will give rise to MR, or we call as abnormal systolic anterior motion of mitral valve leaflets, and that can also end up into failure. And decreased cardiac output also will result into heart failure, dyspnea, syncope, etc. So there is an increased muscle mass, increased demand, decreased diastolic filling, hence there is a decreased blood supply, coronary blood supply is less, and that will give rise to imbalance between demand and supply, and that will give rise to what we call as ischemic pain. Secondary to restrictive cardiomyopathy, there is a rigid myocardium, so ventricular filling is poor. Because ventricular filling is poor, decreased cardiac output, and because of decreased cardiac output, less blood supply to muscles, etc. So weakness and fatigue. Because of rigid myocardium, diastolic ventricular pressure is elevated, venous congestion, and that will give rise to what we call as a right ventricular failure. Jugular venous will be dilated, hepatomegaly, ascites, etc. This will be more common. This is Takasubo. We have already mentioned that in dilated variety, more commonly person will present as a left ventricular failure and then can end up in congestive heart failure. Can have a cardiac arrhythmia like atrial flutter fibrillation blocks. Even person can have a sudden cardiac death. In a hypertrophic variety, most common way they present is a left ventricular failure, anginal pain. If there is a very severe obstruction to the left ventricular outflow, there will be decreased cardiac output, can end up with syncope. Very frequently person presents as cardiac arrhythmia like atrial flutter fibrillation, supraventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation. Secondary to thrombus formation, person can have a thromboembolic phenomena, and good number of time because of ventricular arrhythmia person can have even sudden cardiac death. In a restrictive variety, more frequently person present as right ventricular failure or left ventricular failure, or may present even as a congestive heart failure. In arrhythmogenic variety, person will present very frequently as sudden cardiac arrhythmias, which can end up with syncope and sometimes sudden cardiac death. And arrhythmias which are very common in ARVD are atrial flutter fibrillation, VTVF. In a stress cardiomyopathy, person can present as congestive heart failure. Even sometimes can mimic identical like acute myocardial infarction. They can present as tachyarrhythmias and can once in a while can have sudden cardiac death. As far as channelopathy is concerned, like short QT, long QT, also in case of what we call as Brugada, there will be more commonly they present as a syncope and cardiac arrhythmias like VTVF and can suddenly have sudden cardiac death. Any one of these presentation. This particular I have mentioned in very short. We'll have some slides which will tell you little bit in more detail. That is, in a dilated variety, you can have symptom signs. Very frequently person even in an early age can present as dilated cardiomyopathy. Most common symptom is left ventricular failure, which can be diagnosed by orthopnea, nocturnal dyspnea, or dyspnea at rest, basal crackles. May also present as a right heart failure like edema, hepatomegaly, JVP elevated. Secondary to low cardiac output, hypotension, tachycardia, tachypnea, fatigue, weakness, etc. They can also present as cardiac arrhythmias like atrial flutter fibrillation, conduction disturbances. Atrial flutter fibrillation can end up into thrombosis and thromboembolism. And secondary to ventricular arrhythmia, person can have a sudden cardiac death. Any one of these presentation can be there. So indirectly, person can present as a biventricular failure, or we call as a congestive heart failure, because of low cardiac output, fatigue, hypotension, light headache, weakness, leg cramps. Left ventricular failure, orthopnea, paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea. Secondary to right ventricular edema, ascites, weight gain, hepatomegaly, JBP elevated. Decreased cardiac output will produce tachycardia, fall of blood pressure, decrease in pulse pressure, cold clammy extremities, pulses alterans, basal crackles, pleural effusion, S3, mitral regurgitation murmur, JVP elevated, hepatosplenomegaly, ascites, edema. You will have a dilated LV, very common, decreased capacity, fatigue, dyspnea at rest, PND, orthopnea, dry cough, palpitation, abdominal bloating, nausea, vomiting, anorexia. These are all symptom signs of what we call as a ventricular failure. JVP elevated, you can see dilated veins, S3, S4 sound may be present, tachycardia or bradycardia, basal crackles, edema, low pulse volume, pallor, hepatomegaly, JVP elevated, murmurs, arrhythmias. If you go through the percentage, heart failure is almost in 75 to 85%, anginal pain in 8 to 20%, thromboembolism is very uncommon, 1 to 4%, syncope, sudden cardiac death are common. In ECG, you can have a sudden cardiac arrhythmias in the form of sinus tachycardia, atrial flutter fibrillation, ventricular arrhythmia like VTVF. You can have a changes like left bundle branch block, conduction disturbances, left atrial abnormalities, hypertrophy, etc. can be also seen in ECG. Echocardiography will show you dilated chambers, left atrium will be enlarged, left ventricle is markedly enlarged, MRTR can be very commonly seen, and you can have even stress testing will show you tachyarrhythmias, etc. Diagnosis is mainly by the history and clinical examination very easily. In chest X-ray, there will be increased size of the cardiac shadow. 12 lead ECG, we have already mentioned what you come across in ECG. This we already discussed. Echocardiography also we have shown. Blood test, hardly there is any blood test which will be confirmatory. But in acquired variety, you can have a blood test in favor of diabetes mellitus or predisposing factor which are responsible for ischemic heart disease. Genetic testing is very useful to identify the genetic groups, or we call it the idiopathic cause of dilated cardiomyopathy. Endomyocardial biopsy is needed in a condition which involves the myocardium. CT scan, MRI scan may be helpful to find out the severity of involvement of the myocardium, and cardiac catheterization to find out hemodynamic status of ventricular chamber. Very frequently it is associated with alcohol, peripartum, ischemic heart disease, etc., diabetes mellitus, acromegaly, hypothyroidism. In those groups, by investigation, by clinical examination, history, etc., you should be able to identify those particular differential diagnoses. Dilated cardiomyopathy, you will have a global hypokinesia, regional wall motion abnormality, dyskinesia, and RV involvement is quite common in dilated variety. While in idiopathic variety, you will have a regional hypokinesia, this will be ischemic, regional hypokinesia, regional wall abnormality in a territory where the coronary artery is involved or where there is a myocardial MI. Dyskinesia may be seen. while dyskinesia is usually not seen in a dilated variety. RV involvement is very rare in a ischemic cardiomyopathy. It is mainly ALV commonly involved. As far as hypertrophic variety is concerned, we already told you that it can be genetic groups where there is an abnormal hypertrophy of the septum. So genetic is quite common. Among acquired, hypertension and hypoparathyroidism. These are all the different words which are being utilized. Idiopathic hypertrophic subaortic stenosis, hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy, asymmetrical septal hypertrophy, muscular subaortic stenosis, systolic anterior motion, or we call short form we call SAM. But the most common term which is being utilized is HOCM, hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy. That is most commonly utilized, or you call hypertrophic. This slide I have already discussed variant variety. Asymmetric hypertrophy, which is accounting for 65 to 70%. And this is very frequently associated with mitral valve involvement, we call SAM, and that may be associated with mitral regurgitation. And also it produces obstruction to the outflow of aortic valve, aorta, that is we call subaortic stenosis, and that can produce syncope, angina, quite common. Apical variety is not very common. It is in 15 to 20% of the group of people where only the apical region undergoes hypertrophy, where usually you don't have involvement of the mitral valve leaflets or outlet obstruction. And in a complete symmetrical variety, you got the hypertrophy of entire septum with a left ventricular wall, where there will be increased demand and decreased supply, which will give rise to anginal pain, etc. So these are the three common variety which you will come across. The most common symptom is syncope, angina, and left ventricular dysfunction, and that will give rise to dyspnea. So syncope, angina, and dyspnea together with clinical evidence of aortic stenosis, you must suspect IHSS, or we call HOCM. So in a mild variety, they can present as asymptomatic. In severe variety as angina, syncope, dyspnea, and good number of times they present as sudden cardiac death. So sudden cardiac death, cardiac arrhythmias like atrial flutter fibrillation, and slowly system will progress and person can go into end stage variety. So person can have an asymptomatic variety which can be detected by an echocardiography. In a symptomatic variety, dyspnea, that is left ventricular dysfunctions, are very common. It is almost in 90% of the people. Angina is seen in 1/3, that is 75%. Syncope, fatigue, pre-syncope, one of the common symptoms. Palpitation, congestive heart failure, and dizziness, secondary because of cardiac arrhythmias, particularly atrial flutter fibrillation, and that can have a thrombus formation with thromboembolism. In ECG, in almost 85 to 95% of the people, you will get LVH with strain pattern. There will be abnormal Q wave, ST segment abnormality, big T wave inversion. You might have a bundle branch block, particularly left bundle branch block. You can have a left atrial enlargement, and ventricular arrhythmias are also quite common, which can be seen in ECG. So in physical examination, there is one word which is very frequently utilized, double apical impulse. It is because of forceful left atrial contraction against a non-compliant ventricle. Sometime you come across a triple apical impulse. There is a left late systolic bulge, which can be an additional thing. S1 will be normal, S2 will be paradoxical splitting will be audible, and very frequently you come across in a left ventricular dysfunction S3 gallop. S4 may be also sometime heard because of atrial systole, powerful atrial systole against hypertrophic ventricle. But routine auscultation, it is extremely difficult to identify S4. Very frequently on a Doppler, you will be able to pick up. JVP, you will have a prominent A wave. You can have a double carotid arterial pulse, and that is because of decline in mid-systolic gradient. On physical examination, you will have a systolic ejection murmur, ejection systolic murmur, we describe as a crescendo, decrescendo, base third in apical region and left sternal border. It radiates to the suprasternal notch. It is decreased by decrease in the preload and vasopressure. Will be increased by nitrates or decrease in the afterload by vasodilators. This is one of the characteristic of what we call as a murmur, which can increase or decrease. Secondary to involvement of the mitral valve leaflets, we call SAM or systolic anterior motion. You can have a MR murmur like hollow systolic murmur, which will be base third at the apex and may radiate to axilla. And you will be able to demonstrate systolic anterior motion on echocardiography, very classical. Very rarely we come across a diastolic decrescendo murmur of aortic regurgitation, maybe rarely audible, not common. So these are all the auscultatory findings which you can come across. We already mentioned in ECG, it is quite common in 90% of the people where you get very high voltage in V4, V5, V6, ST segment depression with marked T wave inversion, left atrial enlargement, prominent Q wave, deep and narrow Q wave. And 5% of the people might have a normal ECG. You can have a cardiac abnormality like ventricular arrhythmia, atrial flutter fibrillation. On echocardiography, you can have a asymmetrical septal hypertrophy, or you can have a apical hypertrophy or generalized hypertrophy. Most common is diffuse hypertrophy of ventricular septum, almost in 70 to 75%, basal septal hypertrophy in 10 to 15%, and concentric hypertrophy and apical is in 5% of the group. Lateral wall involvement only very rare, 1 to 2%. You can demonstrate SAM in echocardiography. As far as the restrictive cardiomyopathy is concerned, very frequently they present as a right ventricular failure and left ventricular failure, where JVP will be elevated, ascites, etc. will be present. You will have to find out the cause of restrictive cardiomyopathy like amyloidosis, hemochromatosis, radiation, etc. Echocardiography will give you a typical finding where you will have a prominent Y descent, rapid diastolic filling, reduce LA pressure, deceleration time, and that will increase your left atrial pressure. Heart failure is quite common, which will produce tiredness, weakness, shortness of breath, edema, hepatomegaly, because of decreased cardiac output, dizziness, fainting episodes, abnormal rhythm. There are certain clues which will exclude left ventricular end diastolic pressure more than 7 or equal to 7, myocardial wall thickness more than or equal to 1.7 centimeter, LV end diastolic volume more than or equal to 150, and LV ejection fraction less than 20. All this will exclude out. This is a difference between restrictive cardiomyopathy and constrictive pericarditis. I am not going into detail. At your leisure time you can go through, because these two mimics identical. There are few important points. I'll just try to mention that. In restrictive cardiomyopathy, there will be rapid wide descent more common as compared to constrictive, where there is less rapid wide descent. Paradoxical pulse will be more common in constrictive rather than in restrictive variety. Heart size will be equal in both. Both the heart size is relatively small. It is not much enlarged. Mitral regurgitation, MR and TR are frequently in a restrictive variety rather than constrictive pericarditis because where their valvular involvement is not there. Calcification will be very rare in restrictive variety while pericardial calcification is very common. In ECG, in restrictive variety, you will come across conduction abnormality quite common while it will be absolutely rare in case of constrictive pericarditis. These are some of the differences which you try to find out in a restrictive variety and constrictive variety. Endomyocardial biopsy will be very important in a restrictive variety to find out the specific etiology. Takotsubo, very frequently they present as a congestive heart failure. In an ECG, it can mimic a myocardial infarction. Very frequently, the apical ballooning is there. So, left ventricular apex, you will have a bulging or ballooning, and it is described as a Takotsubo. Arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy, or also called as a dysrhythmogenic, not very common. It is a progressive replacement of the RB by fibrofatty tissue. ECG might show you right bundle branch block. Echocardiography is very important for diagnosis and you require a right ventricular biopsy. On ECG, you can see this typical in V1, that is after S wave, you will have a small projection we call as the epsilon wave, which is very characteristic. There are some major criteria and minor criteria. I am not going into detail regarding that in case of an ARVD. If you are interested at your leisure time, you can go through. These are some of the characteristic findings you will come across, and as they develop ventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation and sudden cardiac death, ICD implantation is a must in almost all patients who are symptomatic with arrhythmias, and also you should do it in an asymptomatic patient also. There is one group called as LV non-compaction, which is diagnosed by prominent trabeculation and deep recesses in a left ventricular apex, which can be seen very clearly on a echocardiography and what we call as a angiography, where you can see in a left ventricular filling. There will be strong genetic history, increased risk of congestive heart failure, ventricular tachycardia and sudden cardiac death. Thrombosis and thromboembolic phenomena is very common. You should try to identify this group, which can be easily identified by good echo. You can see here there is a deep increased trabeculation. So non-compaction very easily identified by involvement of the apical part of the left ventricle. More commonly, it is very easily diagnosed by echo. This is a difference between dilated variety, restrictive variety and hypertrophic variety. We have already gone through all those at your leisure time. Difference in chest X-ray, ECG, echo, radionucleotide study and cardiac catheterization. It is in tremendous detail. If you are interested at your leisure time, have a pause in this slide and can go through. This is a difference between restrictive cardiomyopathy and constrictive pericarditis, which we already mentioned. Again, a difference is given in detail. Investigation, most commonly you require X-ray chest, which can show you a huge dilatation in dilated cardiomyopathy. ECG, echo is very helpful to differentiate different groups and presentations. Myocardial biopsy is required in a restrictive variety, more common than any other variety. Very rarely we go for an endomyocardial biopsy in case of a dilated cardiomyopathy. Cardiac catheterization is to find out the function and hemodynamic status of LV and RV. BNP and terminal BNP will be elevated in dilated, even in restrictive variety. Also in case of hypertrophic variety because of presence of congestive heart failure, quite common. Biochemical testing may be helpful in some condition. Endocrine to find out secondary causes in case of a dilated cardiomyopathy. Radionucleotide study will be helpful to study the ventricular function. MRI, etc. will be also helpful to find out the ventricular function. Endomyocardial fibrosis is very helpful in what we call as infiltrative variety in restrictive cardiomyopathy and also in case of an acute dilated cardiomyopathy. It should be also done if the person is having rapidly progressive element or it is unexplained cardiomyopathy of recent onset, etc. So if you want to identify some of the infiltrative disorders like SLE, polymyositis, sarcoidosis, etc., endomyocardial biopsy is required. This is MRI scanning. This is dilated cardiomyopathy. You can see a huge dilatation of cardiomyopathy. This is, you can see a big, very high voltage T wave inversion with little ST segment depression and Q wave. So that goes in favor of hypertrophic variety of cardiomyopathy. So a prominent Q wave may be helpful. Q wave may be helpful. Differential diagnosis, mainly you will have to differentiate dilated, hypertrophic, restrictive and arrhythmogenic. Also you will have to differentiate the other we call as a unclassified variety, Takasubo, reversible groups, etc. Management will depend upon in what status the person presents. Mainly the treatment of cardiac arrhythmias, treatment of thromboembolism and treatment of heart failure very commonly. In certain group, devices are very necessary, like in case of a dilated cardiomyopathy, in arrhythmogenic variety, ICD is absolutely necessary. In case of a hypertrophic variety, surgical septal myectomy or alcohol septal ablation is absolutely necessary and it gives a wonderful result. Heart transplant will be necessary in case of a end stage congestive heart failure. So myectomy is very helpful in case of a hypertrophic variety where there is an asymmetric hypertrophy of a septum. Mitral valve replacement is not commonly required, but in case of a severe mitral valve involvement, you might require a mitral valve replacement. ICD will be very frequently required in a person who has got a chance of going into sudden cardiac death, particularly in arrhythmogenic and channelopathies like short QT, long QT, Brugada, and in case of ARVD, ICD is necessary. Demand pacemaker will be also helpful in a person who is having a severe cardiac arrhythmia and chances of ventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation. Alcohol septal aberration will be required in a hypertrophic variety and you can have heart transplant in a late stages. Usually you require a heart failure treatment for a thromboembolism, prevention of thromboembolism. If a person has presented with cardiac arrhythmia, treatment of cardiac arrhythmia and prevention of sudden cardiac death. Lifestyle changes may be helpful in some conditions like stop smoking, weight control, low salt diet, particularly in case of a heart failure. Cardiac exercises, avoid alcohol. avoid certain drugs like cocaine, reduce stress may be helpful. If there is an underlying condition like hypertension and diabetes, rigid control of diabetes and hypertension will be also helpful. Mainly in case of failure, diuretic, ACE inhibitor and beta blockers are very helpful. CCB, particularly if the person has got persistent tachycardia. Digoxin, anticoagulant, antiarrhythmic, antibiotic for prevention of infective endocarditis, steroids, etc. CRT will be very helpful for person who are in a congestive heart failure which are not controlled by drugs. You can have implantable cardiac defibrillator and pacemakers. You can have left ventricular assisted device, Impella, etc. And heart transplant can be done if person has got end stage congestive heart failure. This is LVAD. This is external mesh. This is heart transplant, etc. There are newer modes of treatment in dilated cardiomyopathy like immunosuppression drugs, immunomodulators, gene therapy, cellular transplantation, etc. has been tried, but nothing are successful. Mitral valve replacement will be necessary if the person has got very bad mitral valve involvement. And we have already mentioned septal myomectomy, or we call myomectomy of asymmetrical hypertrophy, can be done by surgical or by alcohol ablation. This is alcohol ablation, or it is called as non-surgical septal reduction therapy, NSRT. So this is myomectomy. You cut this particular part. This is septal myomectomy, and when you inject ethanol in this septal artery, and this will end up with MI, and this portion will undergo necrosis. So that is one of the treatment, that is alcohol septal ablation, where after doing a cardiac catheterization, you introduce the catheter tip into this septal artery and then inject the alcohol, and that will lead to MI, and that portion will undergo necrosis. Or nowadays they are also trying coil embolization instead of alcohol. So you put a coil in that septal artery and lead to MI, percutaneous transluminal septal myocardial ablation. It is also called as a PT, percutaneous transluminal septal myocardial ablation by coil embolization. You put a coil here, block the artery, so it will end up into MI. You can see here, and this portion will undergo necrosis. These are some of the latest. In case of congestive heart failure, you can have supportive measures like intra-aortic pulsating balloons, or you can go for LVAD or Impella. Usually in a restrictive cardiomyopathy treatment of congestive heart failure, steroid can be utilized for sarcoidosis. In hemochromatosis, chelation therapy, etc. can be added. By and large, in a restrictive cardiomyopathy, you don't get a good results by medical therapy, but still, treatment of congestive heart failure by diuretic, vasodilator, CCB, etc. are useful. Digitalis and another inotropic drugs are not giving good result. In arrhythmogenic variety, ICD implantation to prevent sudden cardiac death is absolutely necessary. Complication, we already mentioned this. Whatever are the clinical, they will become complication. Like in dilated variety, congestive heart failure, arrhythmias like atrial flutter fibrillation and sudden cardiac death. While in hypertrophic variety, left ventricular failure, angina, syncope, cardiac arrhythmias and sudden cardiac death. In restrictive variety, mainly congestive heart failure, more of right ventricular failure, or maybe even involving left ventricular failure or congestive heart failure. In arrhythmogenic variety, arrhythmias and sudden cardiac death. In a stress, congestive heart failure, acute MI, tachyarrhythmias and sudden cardiac death. in channelopathies also, ventricular arrhythmia like VTVF and sudden cardiac death, etc. These are all the different complications. Thrombus and thromboembolism is quite common in dilated variety and hypertrophic variety. Decreased ejection fraction and can give rise to left ventricular failure. Secondary to thromboembolism, you can have involvement of any structures, arrhythmia and sudden cardiac death. Heart failure, arrhythmia, blocks, systemic or pulmonary embolism, syncope and sudden cardiac death, quite common in dilated cardiomyopathy. So I end my lecture here. I am very thankful to you for taking out time. I feel that such type of patient you will come across in your everyday practice. If you have got a knowledge of this particular condition, you will be able to pick up those patients, and if you pick them early, investigate properly and treat them, you will give good results.